When you picture a classic bank heist, you usually imagine, like, the explosive approach.
Right, the masked robbers blowing the vault door off its hinges with C4.
Exactly. Alarms blaring everywhere, total chaos.
It's loud, it's highly technical, and it leaves this massive smoking hole in the wall.
Yeah, the bank manager walks in the next morning and knows immediately that they've been breached. There's no hiding it.
Right.
But imagine if, instead of blowing up the vault, the robbers just dressed up as the regional bank manager, walked right up to a teller, and, kindly asked them to carry the money out to their car.
And the teller just did it.
Yeah, just did it. No explosives required, no broken locks, just a really profound exploitation of trust.
Which, I mean, that represents a fundamental misunderstanding of who is actually in charge of the security environment.
Exactly. And that shift from the explosive technical breach to the quiet psychological bypass,
Ah.
that's exactly the narrative arc we're exploring for you today. So welcome to today's deep dive.
Glad to be here.
If you're listening to this, you know the digital landscape shifts daily. And whether you're actively defending an enterprise network or you just want to navigate the web safely, you really need to know how these threats are evolving.
Absolutely.
So today we're focusing on 3 critical stories extracted from the latest threat intelligence reports.
Some really intense ones today.
Yeah, we'll start with a terrifying software vulnerability, like a literal 9.8 severity 0 day.
The smoking hole in the wall.
Right. Then we're going to look at a devastating attack that requires 0 technical exploits. It relies entirely on human psychology.
That's the one that keeps me up at night, honestly.
Yeah. And finally, we'll look at what happens when highly resourced espionage teams combine both of those tactics and play the long game.
And, my baseline philosophy as we go through this briefing is pretty simple. Knowledge is most valuable when it's understood and applied.
Total.
Spotting the patterns between these 3 seemingly disconnected stories, that is the key to actual practical defense for you listening.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the classic smoking hole in the wall breach. So the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, they just dropped a hammer.
They sure did.
They added a newly patched Microsoft SharePoint server flaw to their known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. We're talking about CVE 2026-58644.
A nasty one.
Yeah, and federal agencies and really any organization paying attention, they are on a ticking clock to apply fixes by July 19th, 2026.
Which is, the patch only dropped on July 14th.
Right, giving defenders practically no time at all.
Yeah, this is not a minor bug you can just put off until next quarter. This boasts a CVSF score of 9.8 out of 10.
Glowing red alarms.
Exactly. It's a critical deserialization of untrusted data vulnerability, and it impacts the subscription edition 2019 and 2016 versions of SharePoint.
Okay, deserialization. That word always sounds to me like beaming someone up in Star Trek.
That's actually a pretty good way to think about it.
Right, like you break their atoms down, you serialize them, send them through space, and then put them back together on the ship. You deserialize them.
Right, but in this scenario, imagine if the transporter was hijacked to beam in a hostile alien instead of Captain Kirk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the ship's computer just blindly rebuilds the alien and lets it walk right onto the bridge.
That is terrifying.
What's fascinating here is how that process actually works in the software. So applications serialize complex data into a simpler format just so it can be sent over a network.
Makes sense.
And when the receiving server deserializes it, puts it back together into complex data, it's just supposed to be reading information.
Right.
But if a server blindly trusts that incoming data, an attacker can craft a malicious package where the data itself contains executable instructions.
So when the server automatically pieces it back together.
It inadvertently executes the attacker's code. It basically builds the alien and hands it a phaser.
Okay, but I want to push back on the actual impact here for a second. Because I look at a SharePoint server, and I kind of just see a glorified digital filing cabinet.
Right. A lot of people do.
It's like HR documents, holiday schedules, intranet portals, and Microsoft notes that an attacker authenticated as just a site owner can exploit this.
Yeah.
But how do you go from, I hacked your document sharing site to I own your entire enterprise network?
Well, because on-premises servers like SharePoint, they don't exist in a vacuum.
Okay.
They hold the keys to the kingdom. CISA warned that this remote code execution allows post-exploitation activities, specifically stealing Internet Information Services or ISA machine keys.
Let's translate that. What are ICE machine keys, and why does the attacker even want them?
So ISIS is the web server software that powers SharePoint.
Right.
And the machine keys are these cryptographic keys used to encrypt and validate sensitive data, like session cookies.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Yeah, if an attacker steals those machine keys, they don't need passwords anymore. They can literally forge digital identity badges.
Wait, really?
Yes. They can create a counterfeit session cookie that tells the server, hey, I am the global domain administrator.
And the server just believes it.
It has to, because the cookie is signed with the server's own stolen cryptographic key.
That is catastrophic.
Yeah.
I mean, they are basically making copies of the master keys so they can come and go as they please.
Bypassing all login screens and deploying malware along the way.
Exactly.
And Microsoft actually had to revise their initial bulletin to clarify that this flaw was weaponized in the wild before the patch even existed.
So it was a 0 day.
It was. And the combination of that low attack complexity and the fact that it grants such deep network persistence, that's why it earned that 9.8 score.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And as a quick aside for you listening, CISA didn't stop at SharePoint.
No, they didn't.
They also added 2 critical Forta Sandbox flaws to that same catalog, citing active exploitation. So if you manage those instances, you have the exact same mandatory update deadline, July 19. Check your environments immediately.
But notice the pattern here, right? A 9.80 day causes widespread panic, obviously.
Right.
But finding and developing a 0-day exploit for a hardened system, that takes immense resources, time, money, highly skilled engineers.
Which brings up a really great question. Why would an attacker burn a multi-million-dollar 0 day to blow up the vault door when they can just trick the human sitting in front of it?
Exactly. The human element remains the ultimate unpatchable vulnerability in any network.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about ACR Stealer.
Yeah, also known as Acrid Rain.
Right. And recently updated and rebranded as Amateur's Stealer. This malware runs for up to $1,499 a year on the cybercrime market.
Which is relatively cheap for what it does.
Yeah, because it is currently draining enterprise networks of saved browser passwords, live session tokens, PDFs, synced Microsoft 365 and OneDrive files, you name it.
It grabs everything.
But the absolute twist here, there is no CVE. There is 0 software flaw being exploited.
None at all. The entire attack chain triggers simply because a user pastes a command into a Windows run box and presses enter.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
Because we've had mandatory corporate security awareness training for 2 decades now.
We have.
We drill it into people's heads constantly not to click shady links. Are you really telling me users are just blindly copying and pasting random code into their system prompts? Like, how is this actually working?
Well, it works because the attackers aren't sending an email that says, please run my virus.
Right, that would be too obvious.
They are using what are called ClickFix lures. They hijack the psychological context.
Okay, how so?
So, you might be searching the web, hit a poison Google ad, or land on a page that is perfectly impersonating Anthropic's Claude AI assistant.
Oh, wow.
And researchers noted these fake pages are often hiding behind legitimate services, too, like sites.google.com or GitLab URLs.
Ah, so the corporate web filter sees a Google domain and just lets it right through.
Exactly. And then the user sees a trusted brand like Claude.
So they feel safe.
Right. The page presents a problem the user wants to solve. It might say, your browser needs an update to view this content, or to verify you're human, copy this text, press the Windows key plus R and paste it.
So the user thinks they're fixing a glitch.
Or just passing a CAPTCHA. They're simply following instructions to get to the content they actually want.
Wow, so the user is essentially doing the hacking for the attacker.
Yes, they are.
It's like locking your front door with a heavy deadbolt, but then handing the keys to a total stranger just because they were wearing a name tag that said Claude.
That's a perfect analogy.
But what is the actual mechanism here? Because there's absolutely no software patch for human gullibility. So what is happening under the hood when they hit enter?
It is a masterclass in living off the land, using the computer's built-in legitimate tools against itself.
Okay, break that down for us.
Well, Microsoft detailed 2 distinct delivery chains. Let's look at the first one, the fileless or memory-based chain. When the user pastes that command, it spawns a native Windows process called msht.exe.
Which is the Microsoft HTML application host, right?
Correct.
It's a legacy tool built to run web applications on the desktop. So to the security software, it just looks like Windows doing normal Windows things.
Precisely. That process pulls a remote script, which then decodes and fires PowerShell.
Okay.
It mints a victim ID, it disables certificate validation, and it retrieves a payload. But, and this is the crazy part, it doesn't download a suspicious executable file.
Wait, what does it download?
It downloads a totally harmless-looking JPEG image from a public image hosting service called ImgBB.
A literal photograph.
Yes.
How does a picture hack a computer?
Well, the visual picture is completely irrelevant. The malicious payload is actually hidden inside the beta pixels of that image file.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, custom routines in the script carve that data out, decrypt it, decompress it, and then execute it reflectively, directly in the computer's memory.
So the malware never actually touches the hard drive?
Never. Which completely blindsides traditional antivirus scanners that are, just looking for malicious files on the disk.
That is terrifyingly elegant.
It really is.
And once it's running in memory, Microsoft says it invokes a Windows tool called DPI to decrypt all the saved passwords in Chrome and Edge. But how does it bypass the browser's security?
So DPI is the Data Protection API. When you tell Chrome to save your password, Chrome doesn't want to leave it in plain text, obviously.
Right, that would be bad.
It asks Windows to encrypt it, and Windows ties that encryption to your specific user login.
Okay, I follow.
Because the malware was launched by the user pasting that command, the malware inherits the user's privileges. It just walks up to Windows and basically says, "Hi, I'm the user. Please decrypt these passwords." And Windows happily complies.
So the operating system just hands over the keys.
Yep.
Man. Okay, what about the second delivery chain?
The second chain is disk-based. The pasted command pulls a DLL file straight off a WebDV share over HTTPS.
WebDAV. That always sounds to me like a dusty protocol from the late 90s. How are modern attackers weaponizing something that old?
Well, WebDAV allows a user to edit files on a remote web server as if they were just in a local folder.
Okay.
So the attacker uses a command to mount their remote malicious server as a temporary local drive on the victim's computer.
So it just looks like a standard local file transfer.
Exactly, sneaking right past network boundary inspections. It even wraps the command in a hidden console window so nothing flashes on the user's screen.
It's super sneaky.
Very. And then it drops a ZIP file disguised as a benign update. Microsoft saw it masquerading as Logi Options Plus right into a temporary folder.
Trying to blend in.
Right. It runs the payload, wipes older copies to look like a legitimate software updater, and creates a hidden scheduled task to maintain persistence.
And it probably covers its tracks, too.
Oh, yeah.
Like-
It clears the PowerShell history so there is no trail for defenders to follow.
That is an insane amount of effort to blend in. But I want to zero in on what this malware actually steals. You mentioned it takes live session tokens. And Microsoft's remediation guidance specifically tells victims they must revoke tokens, not just rotate passwords. Let's break down that distinction for the listener.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, cybersecurity is fundamentally shifting from patching code to policing behavioral interactions.
Right.
A session token is basically the digital stamp you get on your hand after you show your ID at the door of a club.
Okay, I like that analogy.
It tells the server, yes, this user already provided their password and passed their multi-factor authentication prompt. Let them in.
So if I seal your password but you have MFA turned on, I still can't log in because I don't have your physical phone.
Correct.
But if I steal your token...
The attacker doesn't need your password or your phone. They just show the bouncer the digital stamp on their hand and walk right into your Microsoft 365 or SharePoint account.
Wow. That is why resetting the password does absolutely nothing to stop an attacker who already harvested the token.
Exactly. You have to explicitly dive into the administration panel and revoke all active tokens to force a logout.
Which brings up the absolute craziest detail in this whole ACR Stealer report. Some of these intrusions are using a technique Microsoft calls ether hiding.
Yes. This is fascinating.
They are storing the pointers for their command and control servers in smart contracts on Web3 and blockchain infrastructure.
It's brilliant counter-defense, honestly.
How so?
Well, traditionally, if an attacker has a command server receiving all this stolen data, law enforcement or security companies can just seize that domain, take it offline, and kill the malware's ability to communicate.
But if you put the pointer in a smart contract...
A smart contract on a public blockchain is an immutable ledger. It cannot be edited, seized, or taken down by any government or security vendor.
Right.
The malware simply reads the blockchain ledger to find out the current address of the command server. If one server goes down, the attacker just updates the blockchain with a new address.
So the malware just constantly checks the blockchain for its marching orders.
Exactly.
That is wild. And again, to reiterate for you listening, this entire nightmare starts without a single software vulnerability. It bypasses the vault door completely because the user just opened it for them.
Which is why relying solely on software patches, while critical, is a totally incomplete defensive strategy.
Okay, so what does this all mean? We've seen the opportunistic smash and grab of a zero-day vulnerability.
Right.
And we've seen the psychological trickery of the ClickFix lure, where the user does the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
But what happens when you combine the technical sophistication of the first with the psychological persistence of the second? And you put it in the hands of a nation-state aiming for geopolitical espionage.
Well, you get a highly resourced operation that measures success in years, not hours.
Right. They aren't looking to steal credit cards. They're looking to steal state secrets.
Exactly.
Enter a newly documented malware named GoSerpent. Researchers at Kaspersky discovered this threat targeting government and diplomatic entities in Southeast Asia.
And this campaign has been active since late 2025.
Yeah, and their timeline proves their patience. Kaspersky noted that after months of covert data harvesting, these attackers just went dark.
They disappeared.
Right, but they returned to the compromised environments in May 2026 with an evolved, upgraded set of tools.
They didn't just smash and grab. They mapped the network, figured out what defenses were in place, went back to the lab, and basically built custom tools to bypass those specific defenses.
That's dedication.
They essentially built a shadow network inside the victim's infrastructure.
Okay, what does that look like?
Well, they deployed a new stowaway remote access Trojan, which acts as a persistent backdoor.
Got it.
They utilized SOC KS5 proxies to mask their IP addresses. So instead of the stolen data flowing straight from the victim to the attacker, they route it through a complex maze of other compromised machines just to launder the traffic.
Sneaky. And they brought in tools like Mimikatz too, right?
Yeah, to scrape system credentials and move laterally across the network.
And their end goal was deploying a highly specific file collection tool called Thumbcatch service. Kaspersky said, the chain from this tool to the final payload demonstrates, quote, sophisticated operational planning. They are meticulously staging sensitive data for exfiltration through network-shared drives. It's just incredibly methodical.
And the communication channel itself is heavily armored. The GoSerpent backdoor receives encrypted, base64 encoded command line arguments.
Okay.
And once decrypted, it connects to a command server using the SHA-256 hash of the communication password as the encryption key. It is airtight.
Wow. But the detail that really caught my eye was Kaspersky noting overlaps with an actor known as Tetris Phantom.
Ah, yes, Tetris Phantom.
They're infamous for targeting APAC government entities by exploiting secure, hardware-encrypted USB drives. I have to pause there.
It's a crazy concept.
It is. Those drives are specifically designed for air-gapped, highly classified networks. How do you weaponize a piece of hardware that is physically encrypted?
It's a brilliant workaround, honestly, because the encryption only protects the data while the drive is at rest or lost.
Right.
But when the authorized diplomat or government worker plugs that drive into a secure terminal and types in their passcode to unlock it, the hardware decrypts the data.
Oh, I see.
Tetris Phantom figured out how to hide their payload so that the moment the legitimate user unlocks the drive, the malicious code executes.
Right when they open the vault.
Exactly. Siphoning out files from the supposedly secure air-gapped machine back onto the drive, just waiting to be carried back out to the internet.
So if an attacker can weaponize a hardware-encrypted USB drive being carried by a diplomat, are standard enterprise defenses even relevant here? I mean, it feels like these targets are just sitting ducks.
It illustrates that for modern advanced threat actors, initial access is not the end goal.
Right.
It is merely month one of a multi-year campaign. They anticipate our defenses and engineer ways around them.
And speaking of engineering around defenses, the GoSerpent disclosure dropped right as Cider's Howler cell detailed a separate espionage operation by the Donut team.
Targeting military and defense establishments in Bangladesh.
Yeah, and they were using spear phishing emails with malicious RTF documents.
And the mechanism there is fascinating. They rely on remote template injection to fetch a VBA macro.
Okay, let's translate remote template injection for the listener. Is that just a Word document that secretly downloads a macro from the internet?
Essentially, yes. Normally, a Word document loads a standard template file from your local hard drive just to format the text.
Right, like normal fonts and margins.
Exactly. But an attacker can modify the document's hidden settings to tell it to pull a template from a remote malicious server instead.
Oh.
So when the document opens, it quietly reaches out to the internet, downloads the malicious template containing macros, and executes them before the user even realizes what is happening.
Wow. And once that macro runs, CIDers noted it injects, quote, architecture-aware shellcode through API abuse. Let's break that mouthful down.
Sure. So architecture aware means the malicious code basically acts like a scout. It checks the victim's computer to see if it is running a 32-bit or 64-bit operating system, and it dynamically adjusts its attack to match the environment.
Smart. And the API abuse part.
That means it hijacks legitimate Windows programming interfaces, the functions legitimate software uses to allocate memory or create processes,
Right.
and it uses those to inject its payload directly into the memory of normal applications.
But the kicker in this Bangladesh campaign is how they deliver it, because they use server-side geofencing.
Which is brilliant counterintelligence.
Yeah.
When that Word document reaches out to the remote server to download the malicious template, the server checks the IP address of the incoming request.
Yeah.
It basically acts as a digital bouncer.
Okay, so what happens?
Well, if the IP address proves the target is physically located in Bangladesh, it serves the malicious weaponized payload.
So if I'm, say, a cybersecurity researcher sitting in a lab in New York or London, and I click the link to analyze it.
The server sees you are not in the target zone, and it hands you a completely clean, harmless, blank template. You analyze it, you find nothing wrong, and you just assume it's a false alarm. It restricts their exposure and heavily frustrates security vendors who are trying to analyze their toolkits.
It just shows the immense level of patience and precision we're dealing with. I mean, they're checking the ID of the person opening the door before they even decide to draw their weapons.
Which is exactly why understanding the underlying mechanics of these breaches is so crucial for actual defense. You know, you can't fight what you don't understand.
Absolutely. Which brings us to the end of our threat intelligence briefing for today. Let's synthesize this into practical, actionable takeaways for you.
Let's do it.
Number one, if you are running on-premises servers, especially SharePoint, patch them immediately.
Right now.
The July 19 deadline for CDE 2026-58644 is non-negotiable. The attack complexity is low, and the IS mission keys to your kingdom are at risk.
And number two, user education must evolve past the basics. You can no longer just tell people don't click bad links. You need to explicitly train your teams to never, ever paste code into a Windows Run dialog or PowerShell prompt, no matter how convincing the AI lure or the CAPI TCHA looks.
Yeah, that's huge.
And remember, if you do get hit by an info stealer like ACR stealer, you must explicitly revoke session tokens. Simply rotating passwords will not lock the attacker out of your environment.
Great point. And number three, recognize that advanced attackers are infinitely patient. Whether it is GoSerpent waiting months to deploy custom tools or the Donut team geofencing their payloads to stay hidden from researchers, the long game is very real. Don't assume a quiet network is a secure network.
Exactly. And this raises an important question, actually. I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
Let's go back to that concept of ether hiding we discussed with the ACR stealer.
The Web3 stuff.
Yeah. If malware command and control infrastructure is actively moving into immutable smart contracts on public Web3 blockchains, how long until our standard defensive firewalls are rendered completely obsolete? If an attacker's server can't be taken down because it lives on a decentralized ledger, will enterprise defenders soon have to start actively policing and analyzing the blockchain just to figure out who is attacking their networks?
That is a staggering thought. The vault isn't just being bypassed. The getaway car is disappearing into a dimension we can't even police yet. We have gone from blowing up the vault to calmly walking out the front door, and now the robbers are erasing the street they drove away on.
It's a wild new world.
It really is. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into today's threat intelligence. Stay curious, stay secure, and we will see you next time.